exhibition.
And you were telling me, let's start with this, how the history of this building in relation to the league and
Yeah,
stuff.
our Wildcat office here now at 1302 East Creighton, that's the same address as the old Bowser building, 1302. This whole complex out here was the original Bowser industrial complex. Of course, he invented the first gas pump, and he got that whole thing started in this area. And I think that was in the 1880s, something along in there, but he helped. And so this property, Mr. McMillan bought up in the early 60s. And the income from the rental properties, it's up through Growth Industries, is the name of the corporation that he started. It's basically rental properties. The monies from that goes back into the foundation for earmarked for Wildcat. So that he helped perpetuate that to make sure that the foundation had funds there to fund this program.
So he not only started it, he put a plan to
Yeah,
see that
together,
it continued.
right. And the building next door is the one where the new the police station is moving into. Their headquarters will be here, their offices and administrative, and they'll have the crime lab in out here. But the lockup will still be downtown. But so the old Bowser building here. A lot of people refer to it as the Phelps Dodge building, and it's not. They were rented the building. And were the tenants for probably since '67, and of course now they've moved out this summer, and that was when this came up with the city administration and police department showed some interest in moving out here, and so we're going to have new neighbors here with the police department.
Boy,
yeah,
exciting. Tell me a little bit about the founder of Wildcat League. What kind of man he was, and his background.
Now,
and
Mr. McMillan, we call him Mr. Mack.
Right.
He founded Central Soya Company, and of course they became one of the largest soybean processing companies in the world. And they're not any of the family that are left with them now. They've been corporate. I know there's. I'm not quite sure who owns the Central Soya now, but Mr. Mack is the one that started Central Soya, and that's where he got his money. And he bought back in the late 20s, I think it was, early 30s, he bought a sugar beet factory down in Decatur. He was in the feed mill business, and he was Wayne Feeds here, and he sold out there. But he bought the sugar beet factory down in Decatur and converted that into soybean processing. He saw the future in that. And but that's where he got started, and down in Decatur. And of course they got plants all over the world now, and all that. I don't know. I think there's 15, 20 byproducts from soybeans now. But that's how he got started. And of course the family's done tremendous, have been tremendous help to Fort Wayne, and especially youth programs. McMillan Park they donated. They built a golf course and a skating rink, the ice rink out there. The Camp Agnes McMillan with the Girl Scouts. There's been so many things they've done. And this tennis center out at on Tillman Road. That's McMillan's Foundation. The McMillan Health Center out by Fairfield Golf Course. That's all but family. So they contribute a lot of people don't even know about, and of course they don't want any publicity on it. But that's some of the background of the family.
Are there still McMillans then active?
Yes, John McMillan is. There's some pictures we'll show you later. But he's active with us now, and he's president of the foundation board too.
Okay.
And he's with Duchar McMillan Tax Consultants here in town in Fort Wayne, and he's not with the company or anything. The Central Soya, he's off on his own.
Okay.
And John is a grandson of Mr. Mack's.
And Mr. Mack, what was his first name?
Dale W.
Dale, yeah.
He was Dale W. Senior, and then Bud McMillan was Junior, and he was an officer with Central Soya, and he's deceased now. And Mick McMillan, who was Harold W., was an uncle of John McMillan's, was another son of Mr. Mack's. He's deceased now. But John is he's Bud's son, so he's a grandson of Mr. Mack's, and he still keeps us going.
And Mr. Mack, this was his idea.
Yes. Yeah, I think most people in the community understand the story. Mr. Mack sponsored other youth groups and other ball teams, Little League, Pony and Colt. But it finally dawned on him that those kids were, 90% of them were being cut. And he was out at McMillan Park watching the tryouts, his Little League team, the foundation Little League team. And he finally realized that these kids were walking away dejected. Some of them were in tears. And so he realized that I'm going to start my own league. And everybody makes a team. We're not going to cut anybody. So that was the impetus that got the
darn.
thing going, and that was in '60. And by '61 was our first season. And he had Bob Cowan. He got from the city schools, and Bob was a local athlete.
Yeah.
And then he was a school administrator. But Bob Cowan and Maurice Davis was our first commissioner, and John Andrews from Central Sawyer was on the first board, and and of course Mick McMillan and Bud, his two sons, they were all together and helping formulate the philosophy and the basic program. And Bill Bauer came in here second year as president, was here for 2 years, and I got in here in '64 as the site director and coach, and then in '65 I was Mr. Mack asked me to take over because Bill Bauer was leaving, take over as president. So I've been here since '65.
Cool.
But Mr. Mack and Bob Cowan and Maurice Davis and Mick McMillan, Bud McMillan, John Andrews they got the thing going, and we haven't changed our philosophy. Basic philosophy in handling the kids since day one, and a basic organization was all put in place. And we're still doing the same thing, and we're still consistent in those areas.
And this is pretty unique to Fort Wayne. I mean, not many cities have something like this, do they?
Well, I don't think they're as good as that. But,
Yeah.
but I may be a little prejudiced.
Was
but
he
I
kind
think-
of a pioneer in this? Everybody plays, do you think? Or
Well, probably so. But there have been a lot of recreational. Of course,
Yeah.
your city park. We've got a tremendous park system here too,
Right.
as you know, Terry. That, and I worked with the park system for 3 summers. But your park system uses that idea that everybody's important, that all kids play with their programs. But as far as taking a program like this and having a league itself and doing this, it probably is unique. And but we haven't changed our anything. The basic stuff we haven't changed. Our attitude towards the kids are the same, that all kids are important. And we've create situations where kids can be successful, because once they're successful, they get good feelings about themselves, and they get the confidence built up. And then they're not afraid to try things later on. So we don't care if they become athletes or ball players or not later on after they leave our program. The main thing is that they've participated in a team activity. And team activities are tremendous for social development and self-esteem and some other things. So in that sense, I guess we're unique. Some of these other youth programs, they lose the insights that these kids are only, psychologically, they're not ready for this winning at all costs, and that if you lose, you're a loser. That's a bunch of baloney. If there's 100 kids in a race and one kid wins it, that means 99 are losers.
Exactly.
That's not true. And that's the same thing in our program, that all kids are important, and they do your best and show up for practice as much as you can and hustle, and winning's going to take care of itself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, the concept, you win by trying,
Yes.
not by coming in first.
Right.
But just,
And you win by participating, and don't be afraid to participate. And so
terrific.
we do so many things to kids when they're younger that no wonder they don't want to try, and because they've been beaten down. And no kid, when he strikes out at a plate or fumbles a ground ball, he knows that, he feels bad enough. You don't have to yell at him and
Yes,
scream
exactly,
and
yeah.
As he comes off the field, chastising, hang him out on the cross, and you know what you've done to us. You know realize what you're. And even some parents I've seen in some programs lose their cool.
Yeah.
And
Well, we were just talking about that on the way over here, that, Little League, it gets so grim, and it's the parents that, are playing kind of through their kid. And
yeah, and Terry, we're not and I'm not saying that we're against all the other programs,
no. They have their place. Yeah.
right, and Little League does a good job, and there's a lot of those people in there who do sacrifice a lot, but there are some of them that don't, and some of them they do some terrible things to their kids, psychological scars that are. But our staff is salaried, and a lot of people may not realize that. And so the program is funded through the foundation, and the insurance and equipment, our salaries of their staff, and everything's taken care of through the foundation. So we can pick and choose qualified people. And if we get a dud out there sometimes, that's it.
Yeah.
We don't have to put up with it.
Yeah.
So in that sense, and we don't have to get out and hustle the buck like a lot of programs do, and so that is very important too.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So administrative, if I had to spend a lot of time going out raising money instead of tending to business, what we're in here for, that frees me up to do that. And a lot of administrative positions, and you may appreciate that.
I appreciate it very much, yes.
That when you have to spend a lot of time to generate funds for your programs.
And the program almost becomes tailored to raising the funds rather than the activity that you're supposed to be doing.
That gets lost somewhere. It may be the third or fourth down the line of what's...
Because for one thing, you'll go someplace to say, well, this sounds interesting, but why don't you try this? Next thing you know, you're doing things to get the funding, and then you can't even recognize what it is you started doing. So that's great. Tell me a little bit about your reunion coming up, and then maybe you can give us a quick tour. And
on July the 9th and 10th, here we go. We're going to have we're part of the bicentennial, and we're part of the Three Rivers Festival weekend. We're a showcase events for that too. It'll be down at the Grand Wayne Center.
Okay.
2 years ago, the Sports Corporation called us, and we're a member of that. Jerry Fox and is the president of that, and they sent us a letter and called, wanted to know if we wanted to be a part of the bicentennial. And right away I said, I'm sure, but let me check. And I contacted our board, and everyone was in favor, and John McMillan was really enthused. He said, but it would be great to be a part of that. And so right away we kind of all had the same idea, that a reunion type thing, an exhibition, and trying to tell the Wildcat story over 34 years. And so we're going to have the Grand Wayne Center the July 9th and 10th. That's the Three Rivers Festival weekend. And so we're going to have a captive audience down there of 100,000. Hopefully they'll remember to come over. But so we're going to fill the Grand Wayne main exhibition hall up with pictures and videotapes from 61 on. We've got league newspapers that we send out to the kids every year, and we'll have this is our league newspaper, and there'll be every one of these displayed since '62. So the partition in there, part of that will be taken up with all 34 years of league newspapers. Pictures, over 1,000 pictures will be displayed.
Oh, man.
Daryl Jones, I don't know if you know Daryl Jones, that photographer. He did the book on Indiana, the pictorial book, and he's done a lot of other things. Yeah. Well, Daryl's from Fort Wayne, and he went to Southside.
Okay.
And he worked for us in Wildcat. He was one of our staff members for 4 years in high school and college. And tremendous young man. I talked Daryl into coming back this last year, and he took over 600 pictures, color pictures of our program out at the sites.
Yeah.
And I'll show you some of those later.
Okay.
But Daryl came back and gave us a freebie. So we're going to have, and I told him I have room for 270 of his pictures that he took. So he's going to have an exhibition of all of his photographs. And they're all in color.
Of Wildcat?
Of Wildcat programs,
scenes, yeah.
All Wildcatters and staff and in action and everything. And that'll be on display in there. And we'll have a booth representing each Wildcat site. We've got, so if a kid played at McMillan Park in 1965, 66, 67, he used to go to that booth and register. And if he registers, we got a little handout or a refrigerator magnet.
Oh, neat. Look at this.
And what we'd like to do if they would register is to give us their name, when they played, where they played, what they're doing now, and any comments on the program and anything they felt it did for them when they were playing. And so we're going to get a good evaluation out of this too, which is very important of what, and maybe we'll get some good suggestions too.
And you anticipate people from all over the country coming back for that?
Well, it's from the state anyway. And we sent out to all of our past staff members, we sent a letter out to them about this to come back, and I've got 125 responses from past staff members, and a lot of them still here in town are going to come back and help man these booths.
I'll bet you have people from out of town. I mean, out of state coming
hopefully.
Too.
Well,
word spreads,
Yeah, Terry, this is the thing now. We've got all of the physical things ready. All we need to do is market this now and make sure that Fort Wayne knows about it.
That's fantastic.
We've mailed these out to all the kids from in the Fort Wayne Community School, 2nd grade up through 9th. And
Okay.
this is our registration thing too.
Okay.
But we've
So
tied
it's
this
all in
flyer
one.
in with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's wise.
And all 3 channels are helping us, TV channels.
Okay.
And we haven't sent anything out to 55 yet. The radio and newspapers will send a flyer out and some things to them. But the 3 TV is 15, 21, and 33 have all are going to be doing some PSAs for us, public service announcements. And 15 even ran during the World Series last fall. They ran some PSAs
Oh, that's neat.
on Wildcat in our reunion. So we've got some
This'll
things in
be-
place, and of
This
course,
will be really something.
city utilities on those mailers.
Yeah. Oh, they put one in their mailers.
Yeah, they're
oh,
gonna.
yeah.
Yeah, we can get that, and we've got this in the 70,000 of those are going to be mailed, stuck in there.
Where'd you get these done?
Well,
They got one on the
well,
Highland,
yeah, Highland Games are on
That's
working.
neat.
We're working with them, and we got interesting story on this. I got in there too late to get in there this spring sometime, but they suggested to me Lee Densel is with the city, and she's the one who handles this. She suggested I call the Indiana Highland Games and see if, because they had it reserved.
Oh, okay.
And we worked a deal out, and I was very thankful for them. They let me have one side for Wildcat, and then they got the other side.
Oh, that was really worked out
yeah,
well, didn't
yeah,
it?
right. And
Otherwise, you wouldn't have got in.
Right.
Oh, great. Who is the woman from the city? Who?
Lee Densel,
Lee.
she handles those.
Okay.
They've got a lot of you have to be nonprofit or educational. You can't just advertise.
Right. Okay.
And those are in the utility mailers.
Okay. Can I take one?
Sure. Yeah, you sure can.
Thanks. All
Take
right.
those too, and I'll get.
Well, maybe we could have
I'll get the
a.
Wildcat Mom one of the refrigerator magnets. She
Oh.
needs one.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, those are neat.
We got a lot of Wildcat Moms around town.
Okay. Wildcat moms. All right.
Terry, there's been over with this year's registration, and we're averaging about 4,500 a summer. With this year's registration, we'll have 155,000 kids through the program in the 34 years. And you know, 30%, 20% of those still are left in town in place. Plus grandmas and grandpas and mothers and dads and aunts and uncles of all those kids that played Wildcat over the years. You know, we're at least 20,000, and I bet you there could be 50 to 100,000 people through our exhibition.
Oh, I bet so.
If we get the word out, July 9th and 10th
I bet
this
so.
summer.
That's really going to be something. Well, one thing, when you mentioned Mamie and Rolland, you get mixed reactions. I mean, you know, people say, oh, why is he, you know, the same people get appointed these committees, and Ian Rolland's got his finger in everything, and then the other side says, all the things you've done for this community, and you personally and your company give many, many dollars to the city of Fort Wayne. But how does that work with you? I mean, you just kind of shrug off the criticism and do what you think is right?
Yeah, I think I shrug it off. Of course, it probably depends on the source, as to how much weight I give it, and try and put it in some context and try and figure out the motives of the people doing the criticizing. But basically, my motives are to try and make Fort Wayne a better place. I was born here. I've lived in Fort Wayne all my life. The only time I've ever lived outside of this community is when I was in college for 5 years. So that means I've lived in Fort Wayne for 55 of my 61 years. And so I really do care about the community. I've chosen it as a place to live, and I've chosen it purposefully because I think it is a good community. We've raised our family here, and I've had my business life here. I've always had a view that citizens ought to put back into the community more than you take out. I'm not sure where that view came from, but I've tried to live that out over my lifetime, and so I've had a history of community activism that goes back well before I was CEO of the Lincoln National, and nobody ever knew who I was around Fort Wayne. So what I do now is an outgrowth of a view that I've had about the role citizens ought to play in the community. This being CEO of the Lincoln National does put you in a position of great opportunity to participate in lots of activities in Fort Wayne. The demands are very great for your involvement. Organizations want your involvement. And my philosophy about involvement is also carried over into the way I provide leadership here in Lincoln National. I believe not only individual citizens need to be involved in the community, but I believe corporate citizens do as well. And doing business in a free market like we have in the United States is a privilege that's granted to us by society. It's not a God-given right, and so we have to, in my view, earn that privilege every day through the way we do business and through our commitment and involvement in community activities. And so I think society expects this of us, of corporations. In addition, I believe it's very much in our corporate self-interest to have this involvement, because it's right for us to try and make this a better community. It makes it a better place for us to do business, a better place for our employees to live. And so that's what drives my personal involvement. That's what drives the company's involvement. So we're a large organization. We are a player. People want us involved. And I think the criticism comes primarily because, as I've said, our involvement means you will get our involvement in a very active and positive way, but you'll also get our opinions and our points of view. And you'll have to deal with those. You don't have to accept them. You don't have to agree with them. We don't insist on winning every time. But we will have our points of view and we'll express them. And in my view, as long as that's done with the idea of making the community a better place, then that ought to be accepted. But some people, I think, have trouble with that. That they want us to, say, give our money or get our people involved and provide our resources, but stay away from them with respect to how things are done. And so, sometimes we take controversial stands, and that maybe is a bit unusual for corporations. They don't do that too often. We financed the lawsuit against the Fort Wayne Community Schools because we made the judgment that was a highly important issue, and unless we were going to do that, it wasn't going to get done. And it's worked out very positively. So a lot of people didn't like that, because they didn't want to see the schools desegregated. What I said was, all we're doing is asking a court in this area to determine whether the Constitution of the United States was being observed by the Fort Wayne Community Schools. I don't think that's a very radical sort of thing to do. We're willing to go to court and take our chances. A lot of cases they weren't willing to go to court, didn't want to go to court, and didn't want to face up to the issue.
Do you have a sense of, I guess, importance? I mean, I'm thinking almost like your life is a fantasy in a sense. I'll sit around with friends and say, boy, if we had a lot of money, we build this or give this. I mean, in a sense, you have that opportunity. You can give the East Wayne Street Center a big grant to make their new center for inner city people and give to the arts and so forth. Is it hard, I guess I'm asking, to keep a balance between Ian Rolland, the man, and Ian Rolland's image in the community?
Well, being in this position provides lots of opportunities because we do have resources. and that enables you to make an impact, and that's really good. The opportunity to make something happen that's positive is just very satisfying. But on the other hand, it carries some responsibilities. I mean, you just can't ram things through. You got to work with other people. You got to consider other points of view, and I think we do that. But somebody's got to provide leadership, and I think one of the problems in our society today is there's too little leadership. There's people look at polls and they try and figure out what's safe, and so we need leadership, and we try to provide some leadership, and there's a great opportunity in that to make positive things happen. We try to be responsible in carrying out the responsibilities and using our resources.
So you see your public role sort of part of your job as the chief of this big corporation, which you have your business to run.
Yeah, the public role I have is very much an outgrowth of the job I have. But it's not only that. As I said, it does come out of a philosophy that I tried to live out before I had this job, and that is that I think every citizen needs to be involved in some way in the community. Now that I have this job and I'm in this position, what I do becomes far more visible. But I think there are lots of people out there that don't get the press that probably maybe make a lot bigger impact, and so I wouldn't want to suggest for a minute that what I do is special or better than what others do, because you can go to the East Wayne Street Center or out at the Cooper Teen Center or into the schools and see individual people that are doing terrific things and making significant impact on individual lives that are really important. I don't get a chance to as much as might be nice or I'd like to impact on one-on-one in people's lives. I guess a lot of what I do is more macro in its impact, but that doesn't make any better. It's just different what others are doing. But the challenge I think is to get more and more people that are willing to give them of themselves, and everybody contributing in their own way to making it a better community.
A good example of that, I was out at Pierre's Friday night because Disco Harry is dying of liver cancer, and his last wish was to go back one more time where he used to dance all the time. And the woman from hospice who was in charge of him, I was just so moved by her because she's doing what you just were talking about. I mean, she doesn't get publicity. She doesn't have the overall impact, but I mean, one-on-one, her life just is so special to work with people like that.
Those people are terrific, and a lot of them give almost everything they have, and they give all their time and make lots of sacrifices. A lot of them are the real heroes, I think.
When kind of been wrapping up, back when you were in college or going to high school here, were you sitting around saying, when I grow up, I'm going to be the president of the biggest company in Fort Wayne? And what kinds of things were you hoping to do back there?
Well, I never had running the Lincoln National in my consciousness, even very shortly before I got the job. So it was not something I needed to do to make my life a success. When I got out of the University of Michigan back in 1956, my guess my goals were fairly modest. I graduated in actuarial science at the University of Michigan. I wanted to be able to pass the actuarial examinations, which are very tough, a lot of competition, and I wanted to be able to get through those, and I knew that would take me about 5-6 years after I got out of college. I could become an actuary, work at the Lincoln, maybe go somewhere else, but work in the insurance industry as an actuary, and make enough money to raise my family, educate my kids, make some kind of contribution to the community. And back in 1956, I thought the amount of money that would take would be about $10,000 a year, and that was kind of a financial goal. If I could ever make that much money, I'd have everything I wanted and could take care of my family. So, you know, those were my expectations, to just be able to lead a satisfying, productive life. My philosophy here at the Lincoln, coming up through the ranks, has always been not to try and figure out what was going to happen to me 3, 4, 5 years down the road, but to concentrate on what I was doing at the time and try and do that the best way I could, and figure that if I did that, the future would work out okay, that that'd be recognized and good things would happen. And it kind of worked out that way. I became CEO of the Lincoln in '77 and was president in '75. I suspect even 1973 or so, I didn't view myself as a candidate for this job. And again, it wasn't part of my life need. I didn't need the job to be satisfied, but it came along, and it's been a good run. I've been able to do a lot of things that I enjoy doing, and hopefully make a contribution in the process.
Okay. Well, we were talking, Dan, about the rich history of Fort Wayne sports, and I had mentioned, we'd talked about the NBA was formed here, and I think that's fantastic. I think the NBA today is probably the #1 league now in America.
Not only the NBA league, but there's many other organizations that have been started in Fort Wayne for many years and have gone nationally. I think the reputation of Matt Anthony's golf tournament and the Wildcat League are just some of those. And our community operates daily, hosting visitors that come into our community. We see them here at the Visitor Center. They come in from all over the world, all over the country, coming to Fort Wayne for a variety of reasons, whether it's for business, sell something to somebody, to push a new product, or they're coming here to visit family and friends. We see them every day in our visitor, and they're always impressed with Fort Wayne's size, its cleanliness, and its friendliness. They always tell us that about people, how friendly they are here. And that's indicative of the Midwest, I think. Yeah. But I think it's more indicative of Fort Wayne's Hoosier hospitality that is really true, not just a slogan. People really like seeing that and getting that kind of service when they come to Fort Wayne.
Now, how many people come through the center, would you say, a day? I mean, you have people every day, I assume.
Yeah, our visitor center is located right downtown. There are signs that direct us down here. We're right across from the convention center, the Grand Wayne Center. We're right near the 6 museums that are downtown, so we see people every day. We handle about 60,000 inquiries a year, whether it's by people walking into our visitor center or calling in and sending us mail asking for what's going on and what's doing in Fort Wayne. And in 1994, besides the bicentennial, there's a number of projects that are getting started here this year that will carry off into the future, really lasting legacies. And one of them is Headwaters Park, a new urban recreation park in downtown Fort Wayne, right on the riverfront. That's going to be a wonderful festival venue for people who come and see us for festivals. The zoo is completing a $4 million expansion by building a new Indian region rainforest. It'll take them over 500,000 people a year that they visit, that they host at the zoo. A new children's science central is being proposed, of renovating an old power plant into a beautiful museum that helps depict and educate children about sciences in that area.
I've seen recently some Fort Wayne students who won some national awards for their science projects.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's going to be a complement to the already strong infrastructure for education in our community. We have another thing like the Headwaters Park. We have new welcome markers going up all over the city in 5 different locations by the Bicentennial Commission that give that warm, friendly welcome to our community look. That's a wonderful asset to our community.
Didn't they have a contest or something, or ask the public for ideas?
Well, they had a committee design this specifically that would help depict our river heritage in our community, and they did a wonderful job of depicting that. Very nice welcome markers for our community.
When will those be at?
They're being constructed right now. They're made out of concrete and lights, and they're on the 6 entryways into the community. We're at a crossroads of the nation, Indiana is, and Fort Wayne has a number of crossroads with interstates and highways that come through our community that welcome people, and these do a nice job of doing that.
And will these, each one will be different?
No, each one's the same. They're at different locations on the major entryways into our community. Our airport's going through a major remodeling right now in 1994 that, again, is a major source of visitors and people coming into the community that need to be welcomed and shown that we're a progressive, positive, upbeat community, so that they continue to invest in us as a corporate leader, or as relocating here as an employee, or bringing their family here to live as a professional. That's important to have that good quality of life depicted not only in visitor centers, but also at the airport and in the access points, and that's what those welcome markers and improvements do.
Okay. And what are some of the big attractions? Now, you mentioned some new things that aren't up yet, which certainly will be big attractions. Now, the zoo is both something that's in existence with a brand new great feature with the rainforest. And but what are some of the things that people like to, say, Dan, boy, that was really nice, or I like that?
Well, we find people who come to Fort Wayne is for a family outing, and we see that a lot of people like Fort Wayne for doing things with their kids. That's why the Children's Zoo is probably our largest quote-unquote tourist attraction. People go and see all the great things that their children can enjoy, learning about nature and learning about the animals and zoology. But also there's other things like the Glenbrook Mall, the largest shopping mall in the state of Indiana in 1994. Thousands of people come to our community to shop. Another shopping venue, but not the same way, is the Johnny Appleseed Festival. Johnny Appleseed is buried in our community. It's a strong tradition of our area, but the organization known as Sweeney Homestead, the Settlers, have run this festival for 25 years, and it's a huge draw for people to come and learn about the pioneer lifestyle in the fall, and that hosts almost 100,000 people over those 2 days. Our convention center is one of the major reasons people come to our community, the Grand Wayne Center. They come here for state and regional conventions. It's a high-quality, classy place that's right across from the Botanical Conservatory downtown, convenient to downtown restaurants and activities. There's a lot of people come for that. And another reason would be the Memorial Coliseum, located on the north side of the city, just completed an expansion. It hosts the professional teams that we talked about before in hockey, basketball, and baseball, but also it's a major trade center for the trade shows that go on there, and the seminars and the exhibits and shows that make it a major entertainment complex for the community and for the community to host guests at.
Yeah, well, one thing I like about some of the things that you're talking about is there's some renewed emphasis on this area. I mean, you're located here downtown. The Headwaters Park, that's essentially downtown. So it might bring some life back to the downtown area.
The downtown area, I think, is changing, continuing to change from more of a retail to more of a service-oriented financial district, legal district, and a lot of people want to see activity in our downtown, so that's why the Botanical Gardens is so wonderful. Another new addition that's coming on in 1995, but all the plans are being done this year and bicentennial year of 1994, and that's the creation of a new Lincoln Museum. Lincoln National Corporation is building a $6 million museum located at Renaissance Square, and that's a tremendous addition because they were solicited by a state of Illinois, Springfield, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, to relocate that museum for displaying their national treasures of Lincoln memorabilia, and they chose to keep that in their home community of Fort Wayne, and not only just keep it here, but to expand it in a brand new, beautiful museum that's right on the corner next to our art museum and our historical museum. That's going to make that a real cultural corridor for people and our visitors, not only our local people, but for visitors too. And that's a tremendous asset in a corporation that's making an investment for our community's future for the next 200 years.
And I know there's groups now formed with the bicentennial to celebrate the Indian history of the city. So Fort Wayne is really becoming more and more a blend of the old things you've talked about and the new.
Our diversity is also being celebrated in the tourism aspect. Our Three Rivers Festival is into its 26th year in 1994, and it's proven to be a wonderful opportunity for everybody to celebrate by going to our parks, by going to our parades, participating in ball games, and doing a lot of youth activities and so on. But also we've seen a growth in ethnic festivals. The Greek Expo, Black Expo, a number of other communities have come together as races and their authenticity and put on huge events like German Fest that are wonderful celebrations of the diversity that we have in Fort Wayne.
Right, and this August, the Kikianga Native American Alliance, I helped form that, is having a big Indian gathering, so now we can add that to the ethnic celebration. So it's more than just a German city. I mean, there's a lot of different people here to make Fort Wayne a blend.
You're absolutely right, whether it's Greek, German, Asian, Native Americans. There's a lot of diversity in our community, and African Americans celebrate that in their display, and they invite all people in the community to come to their festivals. They're not segregated. They come and learn about our culture, and so we can share what we have in common because we all live in Fort Wayne, and it's a wonderful sharing opportunity. And another one, a little bit different, but it's our genealogical department at the public libraries. It's sort of the same way, where people from all over the nation come to Fort Wayne to learn about their history, their heritage, by tracing their family history through our genealogical collection here, which is the second largest in the United States.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that. We were just saying on the way over, we got to ask Dan about the genealogy department, and I almost forgot, because we were right in the library parking lot, and you could see all the license plates. What we had? Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, Texas, just at one glance.
It's a fabulous treasure of Fort Wayne that was started years ago when the public library chose to expand that department, and has expanded several times since then. And it's a tremendous service to the community, it's a tremendous asset for the nation, and it's a great way for our community help share our quality of life and what we have special here in Fort Wayne with thousands, not just hundreds, thousands of people every year. And that's being celebrated during the bicentennial year because they are also hosting the Midwest Conference of the Federal Genealogy Convention. That'll be our largest convention this year, with close to 1,800 people from all across the nation coming here to learn more about that hobby, if you will, of genealogy, but also at one of the premier locations in the nation, and that's right here in Fort Wayne.
Well, I bet that's something that our friends 100 years from now will still be using, looking up people like us, I suppose.
Sure of it.
Yeah. Well, Dan, thank you. Anything else you'd like to say in closing?
We're proud here at the Convention and Visitors Bureau to sort of be that first person that many visitors come into. We take that very seriously, and so we try to present Fort Wayne in a fun, friendly manner to every visitor who calls us, writes us, or comes in person into the visitor center. And one of the things that makes that job easy is there's a lot of things in Fort Wayne to be proud about.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure meeting you and talking with you.
Thank you.
That was great.